next speaker is Mr. Tashie Zaheer, founding president of Urdu Academy of North America.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I'd like to thank American Muslim Voice, Mrs. Samina Fahim, and congratulate Ghazali Sahab, and for American Muslim Alliance for hosting the inauguration of this very important, timely, and a must-read book titled Islam and Muslims in the Post-9/11 America, written by none other but an esteemed member of our community, a dear friend, and a journalist in the truest sense of the word, Janab Abdus Sattar Ghazali. I apologize, I've been down with flu for 2 weeks, and today is my first day back to normal life, so my voice may not support me. 2 weeks ago, when I sent out the invitation for this event to a group of friends and community leaders, a mutual friend wrote back to Ghazali Sahab, and I would like to share a few words from that. He says, "My congratulations on publishing this much needed book. I'm writing to convey my sincere thanks for your dedication to your chosen profession. In the days of Fox and CNN journalistic types, you are a source of truth and a beacon of hope." End quote. Ustu Raza Saab, sitting right here, thank you for writing this note. Indeed, you speak for most of us, if not for all of us. Thank you. Respected guests, allow me to submit to you that for politically uninitiated people like me, it is really a difficult task to read a 341-page book and a political book loaded with events and facts and stats, and even more difficult task to try understanding it. I did, however, manage to do it, and by that I only mean that I have read it. It really astounds me to even think about the number of hours and the dedicated effort it must have taken Ghazali Sahab to follow every action and response throughout the US since and regarding the horrendous incident of 9/11 in the year 2001. Ghazali Sahab has called it a source book, and that it is indeed. In this book, he has chronicled not only the details of what happened, but also what transpired in the aftermath of 9/11. In his familiar and unique style, Ghazali Sahab has told a story of how an unforeseen and unexpected incident changed the thinking of so many so quickly and so drastically, and how that change impacted the lives of one American community, American Muslims. Dear friends, I hope you agree with me when I say that most of the past decade has been really trying, rather tumultuous, for the entire community of American Muslims. By nature, most of us were raised as non-interfering and minding our own business type people. The circumstances following 9/11 forced us from a very private to a public life. Unfortunately, this incident divided our communities, it damaged the fabric of our society, affected the health of our democracy, and above all, colored and clouded the wisdom of our policy choices. Here is something that concerns me very much. In this book, Ghazali Sahab tells us that immediately after 9/11, the FBI reported 1,700% increase in hate crimes, and mostly against American Muslims. Unfortunately, as I'm sure all of you already know, this situation not only continues but has escalated to a new height. The recent attempts of Obama administration at changing or strengthening existing gun laws in this country has created another storm of hatred against the administration and the president himself. This has given an unprecedented rise to hate groups disguised as so-called patriotic groups. It was reported a couple of few days ago that in the year 2008, there were 194 hate groups in the country. But as of now, Homeland Security estimates this number to be 2016. These militia groups are armed with assault weapons and are trained to fight military style. And here is the scariest part. These militia groups are training to fight against their own government of the United States. An analyst from the Homeland Security mentioned at MSNBC that what's happening today unfortunately resembles to what was happening before the Ohio bombing. This is a red flag that needs to be taken very seriously. Coming back to Ghazali Saab's book, he has extensively written about the erosion of civil rights under the administration of George W. Bush and has talked about the bigoted politicians, radio and TV show hosts, and the opportunistic campaign of Islamophobics and the right-wing extremists. Ghazali Saab reminds us of Senate Finance Committee's witch hunt against Muslim charities, especially the Holy Land Foundation, FBI surveillance of mosques, Muslims forced to spy against Muslims, discrimination and harassment faced by American Muslims, men and women in air travel and travel in general. And you just heard an incident personally. I personally remember someone yelling at me and saying, "Go back to your F country," while I was parking my car to go to my office in Los Altos. Last but not the least, Ghazali Saab reminds us of the US government's attempt at silencing the American Muslim advocacy groups like CARE and ISNA, to name a couple. Ladies and gentlemen, what Ghazali Sahab has highlighted as the challenges we continue to face as American Muslims in this chosen homeland of ours is a monumental task that we must take on in order to protect not only our civil rights and liberties, but those of our next generation and next generations and the generations after that. I sincerely hope we have not forgotten about George W. Bush's gift to us all, the Patriot Act, exclusively targeting American Muslims. Respected guests, my intent is not to fill the room with doom and gloom. The intent is not to create the fear, but to create the resolve for the protection of our civil liberties, and we need to stand against infringement of any rights of any American. We are often reminded that the nations and groups who don't remember the history and take the time to learn from their mistakes vanish from existence. Ghazali Sahab tries to lessen our pain by sharing with us that we are not alone in this fight. Japanese Americans, American Jews, Irish Americans, and above all African Americans have all endured similar intolerance, social prejudice, unfairness, and legal injustices in the past. As Americans, I believe it is incumbent upon us to ensure that this doesn't happen to us or any other community ever again. I would like to take a moment to remind all of us a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. And he said, "Injustice and injustice committed anywhere is a threat to peace, to justice, to peace everywhere in the world." Ghazali Saab presents all of us an opportunity to visit the recent past and remember how we were found guilty by association so quickly by so many in a country that prides itself as being the land of law and order and guarantees through the Constitution justice and fairness for all. At the end of this book, Ghazali Saab has included a few appendices that provide demographic data about American Muslims, the recent Muslim immigration to the United States, formation and development of Islamic organizations in the US, hidden agenda of the Gallup polls and the Pew Institute. Just before that, his last chapter tells us another story. And this story is about the constructive response of American Muslims and Arabs to all the challenges faced by them. In this section, Ghazali Saab not only tells us about the positive steps taken by the American Muslims and Islamic organizations, but effectively leads us to ideas and suggestions by reaffirming that as a community, American Muslims has a strong sense of optimism and has the ability to come together and fight back. As a community, we have come long ways, ladies and gentlemen, but we have ways to go. We need to understand that as individuals, we are the ambassadors of the American Muslim community. Each one of us bears the responsibility to reach out, share and educate our non-Muslim friends, neighbors and co-workers. UMA and American Muslim Voice have done a commendable job of reaching out to other communities through interfaith and intercommunities programs and events, and please join me in giving them a well-deserved round of applause. Allow me to talk about one last thing that I personally see as an issue that can be resolved should we all come together to do that. In his book, Ghazali Saab has repeatedly mentioned the phrase 7 million strong American Muslims. If you recall, in 2004, in his famous speech, 2008, in his famous speech in Cairo, President Obama also used the same number and was criticized relentlessly. If you look carefully, there are numerous organizations that have given us that estimate of Muslims in America. The number ranges anywhere from just under 2 million to 6 million, 7 million, and even 10 million. Ghazali Saab speaks to this issue in this book on page 233, and he describes to us the method by which CARE reached the conclusion that there are 6 to 7 million of us Muslims in America. To the best of my understanding, the method is based upon extrapolation of some data gathered from some of the mosques in US. I could be wrong, but in my humble opinion, this method would be considered unscientific by most methods, to say the least. Dear friends, we happen to live in an age of nanotechnologies today, where we have the ability to measure 100,000th of a human hair. It may be naive to say this, but I really don't think counting people is that difficult a task if we put our minds to it. Personally, I cannot think of one good reason why we would not want to know the real number of Muslims in America. According to one report from a reliable source, we had 2,106 mosques in US in the year 2011. In addition to the mosques, we have many more Islamic schools, organizations, and it may not be the easiest thing, I understand, but I think we need to try to come up with a number that is based on facts, not samples and extrapolations. Maybe American Muslim Alliance can take the lead on this project. I sincerely think it's time, ladies and gentlemen, let's stand up and be counted. Thank you.